Hola from the west side. It is me, DC the Purple Diva, and welcome to Not So Random Chat. Happy Monday, everybody. Today was a very emotional Monday. Hey, Miss Mahogany, how you feeling, sis? You feeling good? I hope you're feeling better. Today was an emotional day. I believe that they did show the celebration of life of Kobe Bryant across the country. So I'm sure that many of you may have had an opportunity to see the actual celebration of life. And it was really, really still in the hospital. Okay. Well, you still in my prayers regardless, because I know. And thank you for letting me know that you were in the hospital. So it was really, really emotional when Vanessa Bryant got up there and just spoke about her daughter. First and foremost, speaking about her daughter. And my heart just really went out to her as a mother, because no parent should have to bear their own child. And I did see that Kobe's parents and his sisters were also at the celebration of life. So I'm happy to see that, the family, not just her family, but his family was there. But it really, really touched me when she spoke in regards to her daughter. And it really touched me when she spoke in regards to her husband. I think a lot of us, look at the fact that Kobe, and I'll just say that there are Black women. Look at the fact that Kobe was not married to someone who was also Black, but people forget. They tend to forget the fact that when Kobe Bryant came, to Los Angeles, we're talking about a 17, 18-year-old kid. He had never had a girlfriend, guys. He had lived in other countries. He had lived outside of the United States, for part of his childhood. And he kind of was sheltered as well, really focused on basketball. That was, what he was focused on. And, I remember when they got together, people were saying all kinds of crazy things back then. And, it was crazy to me then, and it's still crazy to me now, because she wasn't even 18 years old. And although he had been signed to the NBA, he was at the very beginning of his career. He could have crapped out. There was no guarantees, that he was going to be who he turns out to be. And I don't think that it was one of those, gold digging, swirling situations. I don't think it ever was that. I think it was genuinely, he fell in love with her. That was his first girlfriend, his first experience with love. And he wanted to marry her, and he did. And because he was of age, you know, by this time, he did what he wanted to do, regardless of what his parents thought. And the fact that they would have been married for 20 years speaks volumes. It really speaks volumes. You know, I think that the words from Michael Jordan today, you know, were extremely, you know, he couldn't keep it together, but he did eventually, you know, give us some funny moments, and just shared some of the things from his relationship with Kobe. And I like that Shaq got up there and said a little bit. But one of the things I also like is that they showed the movie, the 5-minute animation that he did, Dear Basketball, that won him the Oscar. And when you see it, you understand exactly why he got an Oscar for it, because it basically talked about his love affair as a child to an adult with basketball, and he was basically thanking basketball for everything that it had done for him in his life. You know, and I hope that they, you know, I think it's back up on YouTube now. So if people have not seen that or did not see that today, I really highly recommend that you go take a look at that movie. You know, it's 5 minutes, called Dear Basketball. It's back on YouTube again. Because the funeral, I think, the celebration of life, I think, was done with dignity, and it was done with respect. They didn't have something that just went on for hours and hours and hours. You know, they did it for a couple of hours, and then they shut the event down. And I believe that, you know, Vanessa was very instrumental in this, you know, in the decision to do things the way that they did, and with the people that came up and spoke during the celebration of life. Because, you know, we have to recognize they've already buried him. She's already buried her daughter. She's already buried her husband. They already had a private funeral for him. This was just a public celebration, you know. And I just, you know, I am glad that she was able to get up there. I'm glad that you know, she spoke about the life that she and he had, and spoke about what his plans were. I mean, you know, Kobe was going to do a lot of things for the WNBA, for women's basketball, because he had girls. He wanted all of his girls to play basketball. His oldest daughter is a soccer player, you know. But the event was emotional. I cried, y'all. You know, just watching that mother up there, you know, talking about her daughter I couldn't hold it together. I couldn't hold it together. Hey, uppity unicorn. You know, I couldn't hold it together. But I think it was a beautiful celebration of life, and I'm glad that they did it the way that they did. I'm glad they didn't make it into a 3-ring circus. I'm glad that they kept it very, you know, respectful. In other news, rest in paradise. We lost another Black woman legend. We lost Katherine Johnson today. And for those who don't know who she is, she was the key figure in the movie Hidden Figures. She was a mathematician. She was a math girl. I'm a math girl. That's what my major was in college. So I really, really like that movie. And I was, I'm glad that she lived a long, long life. I'm glad that she lived to see people, the general public know about her contributions to NASA. And I'm glad that the movie really shed a light on, the Black women who were mathematicians, and they were actually the computers, back before there were computers. So it was very got dicey for me, because it's like yesterday we lose B. Smith, today we lose, Katherine Johnson, and both of these women were, had major, I would say, major roles in shaping B. Smith, first of all, with her, being the Black Martha Stewart, but that's because she did it before there was a Martha Stewart. She set the trend, and then Martha, of course, took over that, and now she's known for that, and people forget that B. Smith was the one who started that. And then with Katherine Johnson today, just thinking about her doing this Black History Month, what her accomplishments were, and the other ladies as well. All of them, working at NASA, and they only picked 3 of them to showcase. They weren't the only ones. It was a whole bunch of sisters that were the computers for NASA. And you have to think about it, even though some people tend to look down on HBCUs. Back then, that was really, for most of us, that was our only option. And most of these women had gone to HBCUs. They went to schools like Hampton and Howard, but they still worked for NASA. Back at a time where they had separate bathrooms. If you were a person of color, y'all remember that scene where she would literally have to run all the way across the actual base to use the bathroom in the colored bathroom, because she couldn't use the bathroom in the building that she was in. So I hope, people remember her. Remember Katherine Johnson. And hey, Uppity Unicorn, I really liked what you put out today. That was actually pretty good. Talking about feminism in Islam. And I'd like to say that the same things go on in all religions, because in most religions, especially the ones that use the Bible, they tend to downplay all the women that were involved, like it was only men doing things. And that's not the way that it's in there, but that's the interpretation that the men had of it. Like even in I would say in the Old Testament, where you had the Pharisees and the scribes and everything. That was, that was what they thought. And it carried through, into the New Testament. But please do not be mistaken. Women were all in there. And, I happen to go to a church that has a female pastor, and just think about the things that she had to go through, because basically, how people think they look at the woman as the lesser a lot of time in religious affairs. They look at the woman as the lesser, because the first thing that they think about is, submit about the wife submitting to the husband, but they forget about the part where it says submitting yourselves one to another, or about her submitting to him as he submits himself to God. Those kind of things. And it's interesting because, people assume that God is a he, when in actuality he's a spirit, so he really doesn't have a sex now, does he? We just call him he. We just call him he. And I guess we call him he because of the fact that, the spirit is what when he impregnated, I'm trying, the Immaculate Conception, when he impregnated Mary with the miraculous impregnation, pregnancy. I think that's another reason people think of God as being male. But the Most High doesn't have a sex. He doesn't. He created the sexes so that we could procreate, and populate. I know, that's what I'm saying, but it's not like that. You look at the book of Judges, you see that you had one of the most powerful judges was a woman by the name of Deborah. And then you recognize that some of the books, we only have a portion of the inspired writings that happen. We have what they want us to see in what's considered the Old Testament, and we have what they want us to see in what is considered the New Testament. But I mean, if you go to the Church of Antioch, it was a couple, a man and a woman, a husband and wife, that started that church. Hey, Dawn's Journey, how are you? Thank you for coming. Yes, it is your first time. We're just having a random chat. And right now I'm really kind of discussing some things in regards to some content that one of my mods put up today about feminism. And then I'm just, talking about it from the religious standpoint of how in most religions it's slanted, away from women being in any type of leadership roles. So, I mean, I understood, exactly what the ladies in Islam were talking about, because men were running things, they did things the way, they had it so that it was, the interpretation was what their interpretation was, and they decided that women should be, seen and not heard, but it's like that. It was like that in Judaism. It's like that in Christianity. All the different religions that consider themselves Christian, like that within JWs, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, But the interesting thing is that there were always women involved. Even with the start, all of the disciples of Yeshua were not men. Martha and Mary were there. They were there. Mary Magdalene was there. You know what I'm saying? There were women there. And people tried to diminish their role, and really a lot of the traditions that are cultural, as far as, women being in more subservient roles, it's coming from, a lot of that comes from religious customs too, out of religious beliefs. And it just gets indoctrinated into the culture. But I like the fact that within Islam, you do have women who are starting to try to speak, to try to help things to change. Like, you guys know that, like, in certain countries, women can't even drive. And I think that they're just now starting, because they see that as Western. But I think there's one country where they're just starting to allow them to get driver's license so they can drive. So I don't consider myself a feminist. I would say in the American sense, because feminism is a detriment to the Black family. It's not even for family at all. So I would say that it takes away having a family, and especially in this country, it's not a benefit to women of color. It's maybe a benefit to women who are not of color. I've yet to see that. But I don't think it benefits women of color. Because, me personally, Superwoman is overrated. Let me just say that. Superwoman is overrated. And all of these women who want to be those superwomen gonna get tired quick. That's not the way that the Most High meant it to be. But he did mean for, I believe, and this is my personal opinion, I think he did believe for there to be a more equal role between men and women. Oh no, we don't have it messed up, Miss Mahogany. We don't have it messed up at all. That's coming from some other folk. I'm gonna say that Black women have suffered. We have suffered living in the Western world. We have suffered. You know, we have had our femininity made to be nothing. We are sexualized at an early age because that's the way that they see us, not because that's the way that we are. You know? And you have some trash women out there. I'm gonna say that. Black, white, pink, purple. They come in all shades. And I would say it would be maybe, I think that the Western world is not messed up because of us. We don't have no power. We have the least amount of power. Black women have the least amount of power in the Western society. Everybody has more power than us. And the sad thing is that we have a generation or two, depending on who you talk to, of Black women in the Western world. And I'm going to say that it's trickling over to the motherland as well. Think that they don't need the Black man, that they can do it without the Black man. You know, that they can run the family. You know, they can raise boys to be men and raise girls to be ladies. You know, but what they don't understand is that all those little Black boys and those little Black girls need their daddies too. Preferably, and this is where I'm going to be in sync with that little young lady YouTuber, preferably not with having 4 or 5 daddies for your children, preferably keeping that number down, you know, not, blowing through relationship after relationship. And, because there's way too many baby daddies and way too many baby mamas. And I'm not going to even say that that's in one race, because it's not. Although they do like to characterize it as being us. They like to characterize it as being us. But I'm not a baby's mama. And many of us aren't. Some of us, believe it or not, were married when we had our kids. So we're an ex-wife or an ex-husband. But you got these folks that just think that relationships are not the way to go. A family unit is not the way to go. I don't understand. I mean, who really gets out there and thinks that they can just do it all by themselves? And, I mean, now there are people who don't want to get married. So, I can respect that. If marriage is not for you, it's not for you. It's not for you. But then I would hope that if marriage is not for you, you would not be one of the people out there having a million kids, like Future. Okay? Or some of these ladies who I'm not even going to name their names because y'all know who they are, that are big YouTubers that have children by multiple men. That's what I would say. If you're not trying to get married, don't have a whole bunch of kids. I don't know. But you got so many that are out there shooting off with this craziness that they're the ones who are yelling the loudest, so that's who everybody sees. So then they make the assumption that it's all of us. No, it's just a few fools. It's just a few fools. Not all of us. But getting back to Kobe just for 1 second, the one thing that I did like is that how he was with his daughters is making a lot of men who have daughters really re-examine the relationships they have with their daughters as they're growing up. I mean, I've told you guys this, I'm definitely a daddy's girl. My dad still, does stuff for his 2 daughters. Even though we're grown and gone and, in relationships and stuff, but still, it's very, very important, for fathers to have that relationship, a relationship with their daughters. And that's part of the reason why you have some women who get into these crazy relationships with the wrong types of guys because they didn't have a father around. Same thing with boys, they grow up to be men, they didn't have that father around. I mean, I don't know why people think that we don't need the father in the home. I know you're hiding it, but that's okay.
You have to hide it. It's mine.
Sorry, y'all. That was a peanut conversation.
Peanuts over here.
Let me see what you said, Miss Mahogany. Well, one of those ladies did get married. Her children to have their dad in their life. Yeah, one of them did. Okay, but I'm just saying, you know how you know what I'm saying is that the one what feminism did for black women in America is it destroyed the black family. That's what it did. Along with welfare, you know, you know, it's like it's not important that we have families. It's not important. You know? So we're the ones who are going to have to save the black family our daggone selves. Save the family. Because I wish I could say that being in committed relationships or being in relationships that are family units was something that was on the decline in just one ethnicity, but it's really not. It's just like, it's just not. It's across the board. I guess I just pay attention to it more in my own community. Yep. Oh yeah, those two. I mean, now one of them was now, but to be fair, one of them did get married eventually, but now she's not married, or no, she's probably still married because I don't think she got a divorce yet. But she will be divorced soon. I mean, I guess I'm just of a certain type of mentality because it's not even about, you know, the kids. It's like people don't think about how that's going to impact kids growing up, and it's not just in this generation. It's been going on, you know, for a while. I mean, I know people in my own generation, you know, in my age bracket, they got mamas that got, you know, kids by a few people, you know. But now it's becoming like a norm. It's becoming acceptable to be like that. And it's like they're poster children. It's like they're poster children. Sorry. It's like they're poster children. I have the angel up tonight, you guys, again, because it's like yesterday we lost B. Smith, and today we lost Katherine Johnson, and then also because the celebration of life today for Kobe and for all of the other ones that were on the helicopter. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but before I go back to what I was saying, I have to say this before I forget. Vanessa Bryant filed a lawsuit for wrongful death of Kobe, Gigi, and everybody else. She filed a lawsuit today. Yes, she did. You know, I guess someone filed it on her behalf. It was filed this morning because it broke news before the celebration of life. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're all having such a hard time with this whole situation, is because this was a senseless death of all of these people that did not have to happen. So she filed it because she says that the plane was not equipped to go up in that type of weather, with those type of weather conditions, and that the pilot was going at a speed exceeding 100 miles per hour at the time of the crash. At the time of the crash. And that may be true because somewhere here on YouTube, y'all, is footage of the actual crash. You know, and I don't know, YouTube may, you know, people could probably report one, but it's just going to pop up somewhere else, but it's out on YouTube. So it's possible that she's seen that footage because it's been up there for a minute. And is using that as in this lawsuit. But who's surprised that this lawsuit is happening? Who is surprised about that? You know, nobody should be surprised about it. I think another family filed a lawsuit as well. I think it's going to be a couple of lawsuits. But I think also one of the reasons why she filed a lawsuit through her attorneys. So no one, to make it clear that this was not Kobe's plane, Kobe's helicopter, and no one can hold him responsible. But yeah, it was filed this morning. I saw it on the regular news. I'm sure by tomorrow, or it may have hit TMZ by this evening, but I saw it on the regular news because, you know, the papers were filed in court here in California. And I believe that they were filed in Orange County. But don't quote me on that. But back to feminism. Feminism it's such a sticky subject. It's really tricky, you know, because true feminism is not for us. You know, and people like to have what they call, quote unquote, a black feminism, but I sure as heck don't know what that is. Heard people talk about it, don't know what it is. You know, just putting a label on something. You know, they decided that's what they're going to call it, basically. But I do see the need for the feminism movement from the perspective of women having more rights in countries that are heavily Islamic, because the religious traditions dominate the culture in those countries. So I definitely am for it there. And I'm not necessarily saying I'm against it here. I'm just saying that it's not to my benefit here. Hey, Ohima, how are you? Thank you for coming. You know, but I know being a feminist in Islamic countries is sometimes a dangerous thing. You know, it can be dangerous for the women who are involved with it. Hey, Darren. You know, I know it can be dangerous for women involved with it in Islamic countries. You know, but I do think that it's necessary. That's why I'm really happy that Uppity Unicorn put out that content today. And anyone who's in the chat, if you are not subscribed to Uppity Unicorn, please go out and check out her channel. She puts out a lot of good content, and this is one of her latest uploads today, and it's dealing with feminism in Islam. And so I would check it out if you guys, because she gave me some content for tonight. Because when I thought about that, I'm like, well, wow, that's interesting. What she put out there, because I didn't really think about the similarities between the need for feminism now in Islamic countries as to the need for feminism here in the United States. Like, there was like there were times, you know, when women would get into these, you know, movements like the suffrage movement in the early 20th century to get women's voting rights. Now, there were some women of color that were involved in that, but it didn't help us because we couldn't vote. Not if we lived in the South, you know. And then I'm going to say the same thing happened with, you know, with the feminist movement that started doing like the 70s on forward. Again, it really was not something that helped women of color. It simply helped to put a bigger wedge in the situation between us, women of color, and men of color. So, can't say that I would ever call myself a feminist, you know. Because it's like, I don't know, the way I look at feminists, not necessarily outside of the US, but when we're talking about the feminist movement here in the United States, it seems to be that you can't be a feminine woman if you're a feminist, or they are stereotyped as being non-feminine women. You know what I mean? Because they're fighting for, I guess, rights that they feel women should have. But they're do any of you guys really know what the feminist agenda is? See, that's the thing. We need to know what their agenda is. Good question, Mahogany. See, womanism, I think, is about women. To me, would be about women in general issues. Feminism, what it's supposed to be about and what it actually is about, I don't think are the same thing. But let me see. Let me just look and see if I can pull up a definition. What's the difference? Let's see. What's the difference? The difference between, I'm going to look up the definitions between the two. Because I honestly don't know what the difference is. And I'm not going to act like I do. What is the difference between womanism and feminism? Between womanism and feminism. I'm looking it up. I'm Googling it just to see what the internet says, just out of curiosity. What is it going to say? All right, I'm looking at. Okay. The difference between, let's see, womanism is family oriented and focuses on race, class, and gender, while feminism is female oriented and strictly about gender. So that's the difference. That is the difference between the two. So someone who is a womanist is a woman who loves other women and is committed to the survival and wholeness of the entire people, males and females. So she wants family. So I could say maybe I'm a womanist then from that perspective, because I'm about the family. But feminism is about women only. It's not about the family. That's why I said that it's not for us. That was a good question, Mahogany. That's a good one. That was a good question. So that's the difference. Womanism deals with being family oriented, and they want the wholeness and survival of the family unit of men and women together. And feminism is about focusing strictly on women's issues only. But the problem is that feminism does not focus on all women's issues. It, for the most part, focuses on issues that are those issues of women who are not women of color. That's my problem with it. Hey, Malong. Yeah, I could probably see myself as a womanist, but not a feminist. I don't think so. That's me, you know. Doesn't mean that I'm not for women's rights. It just means that I'm not for women's rights at the detriment of my own personal rights as a woman. You know, because generally if it's about women's rights, it's about, non-Black women's rights or non-women of color, and that includes brown women. Doesn't include us, you know? Um, well, if your friends are making fun of you for having a relationship, you know, with God and going to church, maybe they're not your friends, but I would definitely ignore that, especially if going to church is something that makes you happy and you do it because you want to do it. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I go to church too, but I don't have friends not at least at, now. I did when I was younger. I had friends who weren't really into the fact that I went to church, but now a lot of them go to church too. Maybe you should make friends with some of the people at church too, or invite some of your friends to church. The ones that make fun of you going to church, see if they'll come to church with you sometime. Really? Ugh. Wow. Yeah, no, I'm not an atheist. I have some friends who are atheists. I don't understand. I don't understand being an atheist. I don't understand how you can think that there wasn't a higher power that created all of this. I don't understand how you could think that. Oh, wow. That's too bad, Malong. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't believe in God, unfortunately. I don't understand how how people don't believe in a higher power. I don't. And speaking of atheists, did you guys notice that they're talking about putting prayer back in school in the United States? I don't know what prayer they're talking about putting back in the school, though. Since there was never prayer in the school when I was growing up, well, I didn't go to public school. I went to Catholic school. But my friends didn't have prayer in the school. I don't know what prayer they did. What did they do? Did they do the Lord's Prayer before they banned prayer from school? And wouldn't that be, offensive if you're not a Christian? I don't know. I don't have a problem with prayer being in school. It's like, if you're going to be praying, who are you praying to? Yeah. But that's what my question is if you're going to put prayer back in school, what prayer are you putting into school? I just want to know. I don't have a problem with prayer being in school, personally. I think that, it should be the individual students, right. And I told you guys that I met the person who prayer was taken out of school for, Madeline O'Hare's son. Yeah. Yeah, he became a born-again Christian and was fighting to get prayer put back in schools. Yeah. So that's my question about it, is just what kind of prayer they're going to put in there, because 45 mentioned it. You have to really listen to him. Sometimes he'll say something, and I believe that was in his State of the Union speech. You know, the one he did on my birthday that I did not listen to, but I did get sound bites of it. And that was one of the sound bites that I got. He talked about putting prayer back in school. So my only question is what prayer? Are we going to be praying to Satan? You know, it's just a question. It's just a question. Because, you know, what kind of universal prayer are you going to put into the schools? You know, I'm just saying, what kind of universal prayer are you going to put into the school? I mean, as it is, his spiritual advisor is Paula White. And that's a mess. And if you don't understand that, look her up on YouTube. You know, yeah. Just look her up. You'll understand. She's got a few skeletons, and they're not nice ones. She split up a church. She split up a home. So that's, I mean, see, that's, I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe that is the prayer that they said in the school classrooms before it was taken out of school. They would say the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, and they would, do the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe it was, and it was probably back then, it would be the whole school did it together. It wasn't like in one class, because at one point they had like, school assemblies where they would do the Pledge of Allegiance in the classrooms, and they would, do whatever, and then they would go to their classes. I'm not talking to you.
I'm in here, Anime. I'm in here.
Yeah, that's the only question is, I'm gonna, you guys, I'm gonna research that. I'm gonna research and I'm gonna find out what prayer was in school when they used to have prayer allowed in public schools. I just want to know. But I'm I bet you it probably was the Lord's Prayer, because that's the kind of universal prayer that everybody knows. So I don't know, but I'm gonna find out, and I will bring that information back to my chat. I'll bring the information back to you guys. But I'm gonna get ready to get off, you guys. But before I get off, I am going to be starting to go live during the day sometimes, because I can go live from my phone now, and that also means I can go live from my iPad. So I'm probably going to do some morning pop-ups, maybe if on those days where I get up early and I'm just kind of sitting around drinking my coffee before work, might pop up on my phone, because I'm usually sitting at my computer. I'm just sitting there drinking my coffee. But that'll be a good one too, Miss Mahogany. That is a good one. We sang a song. We sang the 23rd song at my church too. It's a beautiful rendition of it that we do. I forget who originally did it. I think it might have been the Richard Smallwood singers. I'm gonna find out who did it. But yeah, we do the 23rd song. I love the 23rd song. But I'm gonna be doing pop-ups for you guys during the days from my phone and from my tablets, now that I can go mobile and I found out how to bring those bubbles on the screen and stuff. And because the reason I haven't been going live during the day is because I don't have a lot of control in Streamlabs. You know, if I get trolled, like in StreamYard, I can control it if I'm getting trolled. You know what I mean? Because I'm generally going to have, you know, it actually open up on my phone. But I think that I'll have more control of that when I'm actually looking at it on through the actual YouTube mobile app going live. Because I'm not coming through some interface. So I'll be doing some of those, you know, lives during the day. I would have done one today, but I was really a mess, y'all. I was a mess. I thought about popping up right after the celebration of life, but I was still a little bit of a mess. So I decided not to. But let me come on camera for just a second for you guys, because I don't have a migraine today. Hey guys, how you guys doing? All right, so I will be back on tomorrow. But until then, everybody, I just wanted to say peace and blessings from the West Side. Thank you guys so much for coming. I know you could have been anywhere but here with me and my crazy hair up in this sloppy bun. But I appreciate you guys always coming and supporting your girl. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Purple Paisley squad. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace, guys. Bye.